like to um, welcome for the session week 2. We are live right now.
I mean, actually, so you can welcome as well as I can do it, all the people. So far, we have just Michael, if I understand well.
Oh, yes.
Okay, so I think, I mean, maybe Michael can start with these questions that.
And
yeah. Okay. As I said, I'm 5th-year medical student, and I'm from Poland, and I had classes on pediatrics. And what I realized from talking with parents, they are more concerned about the vaccine safety than efficacy. Fortunately, the anti-vaccine movement in Poland isn't so strong, but still, parents sometimes ask me questions like this: that do adjuvants may cause allergy or autoimmune diseases? Because they read something like that on internet. And I saw the papers that vaccines aren't the cause of diabetes type 1, multiple sclerosis, etc. But I found something written by, I have it somewhere here, by Professor Yehuda Schoenfeld from Israel, and he published in Pharmacological Research review titled Vaccines, Adjuvants, and Autoimmunity. And it's a review paper, it's not a clinical study, but he claims that all adjuvants may have some impact on autoimmune diseases. What are your thoughts? And my question is also, like, as I said, I'm a student, and I don't know where should I find the proper knowledge, the proper informations, because he's also a professor somewhere. So I don't know if I can trust him. Okay.
You want Mark to start answering Michael, or you want me to comment and then you want to comment on my first answer? Do you hear me, Mark? Do you hear me?
I do, Armel.
Okay, you want to start answering, or you want me to make some general comment and then you up to you.
Well, why don't you go ahead? Vaccine safety is such an enormous topic. So
yeah.
why don't you go ahead first?
I perfectly. I mean, it's a very, very important question mark, of course, and this is a question that, I mean, it's just normal. We all have in our mind. As you mentioned, it is true that it's very difficult so far to have a very clear answer, because mainly due to the fact that there are not so many very well done studies that have been performed. This is something that certainly deserves to be very precisely studied. So there is no clear answer. It's not that there is no risk at all, and it's not that, yes, for sure, adjuvants are responsible for side effect, autoimmunity, and so on and so forth. There is no clear answer. This is the first very important point. And the fact that you say, okay, why not to trust this professor and not another? So I fully agree with you. With all the information that we may get access to through internet, it's very, very difficult to really be able to have the clear answer. So we have to be very cautious, okay? So it's a pity that, I mean, Professor Giuseppe Del Guidice is not there, because he would have been the best person to answer your question. The only thing I would say is that for some of the adjuvants that have been used, they have been used in vaccines that have been delivered to millions of people without any noticed side effects, okay? there are some new adjuvants that have been used for which there is, for instance, a link that has been proposed for this, how you call it, this, Mark, maybe you can help me, this myophysis macrophages, you know, this paralysis of the face for a couple of hours or a couple of days due to events. You don't see what I mean?
Yeah, yeah, I do.
Myophysis or something like this. I have to remember. It will come back to my mind.
Bell's palsy.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So, and in that case, it seemed that it is possible to some person that this could be related to the vaccine that has been used. But the problem is that there is no formal demonstration in the sense we are, us scientists, considering formal demonstration, which is you need a control group, you need,
I know.
you know what I mean? This is really the issue. So I'm not an expert in adjuvants, but the only thing I would say is that be cautious. We need to read, we need to push for having more and more very well done studies to really, I mean, address this very, very important question. And I think that even if in the past classical adjuvant like alum, for instance, have been used in million of people without any clear side effects, this doesn't mean that with the new adjuvants there is nothing around. We don't know yet. We don't have any clear answer. So, I mean, I think that to enlarge a bit the discussion, I would say that, I mean, there is no treatment without any risk, okay? And the problem is that when you have a disease, you accept to take a treatment because you hope you're going to be treated, and you may accept in these particular circumstances to have some side effect with the treatment. The problem is that with vaccine, you take something, you're in a perfect good health, and it's very difficult, and it's normal. It's very difficult to consider that you may have some side effects due to this vaccination because you're in good health and you don't want to have any side effect just due to the vaccination that is proposed to you. So I mean, this is the only thing I can answer, not being, an expert in adjuvants. But what I would suggest is probably to send an email, because you have the email address of all the lecturers. I suggest you directly write to Professor Widice in order to really have his more complete answer as compared to what I can tell you. Mark, you want to comment?
But we were taught on our studies that the most important proof in medicine and etc. are double randomized, placebo, etc. cohort studies.
Yeah.
And so, because he claimed, this professor from Israel, that there are studies made on animals where they claim they, by using adjuvants, they somehow produced autoantibodies. But as I said, I read papers, cohort studies, which claims that there is no link between diabetes and multiple sclerosis, etc.
Again,
And
everything. Yeah.
And it's like it's bothering me a little because this professor didn't even put these studies in his review. It was like
ignoring other studies.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
It was strange
So
for me.
again, I mean, I think the only word that I would say again and again and again is to be very, very cautious before to give, I mean, an answer to people who are asking you about this question. I think the best and the more, I mean, honest answer is to say, I mean, adjuvant has been used, classical adjuvant have been used in millions and millions of people with a clear benefits instead of clear side effects. But who knows about the use of new adjuvants? Maybe it could be, but we need really clear studies to be I mean in a position to say clearly yes or no. And I don't even be sure that even making those studies you will get a clear answer, because I mean you may also consider that depending on the population you are going to target for the vaccine, I mean you may have more or less side effect. This is also something that has to be further studied. So it's really a very difficult question and impossible to give, I mean, a clear-cut answer.
Yeah, thank you.
Mark, you want to comment on that?
Well, just a few words, Michael. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I hear you properly.
Okay.
One
So I work in a vaccine company. I just want to make
okay.
I
hear you.
Vaccine manufacturer. I work. Oh.
Yeah, it's perfect.
Okay, and when we license vaccines, we have the obligation to demonstrate that the vaccines are safe. The challenge is that these studies are relatively small, right? So they're in the populations of thousands, tens of thousands of people. But then we have what are called post-licensure commitments, and then we move into the scale of hundreds of thousands and millions of people. But for people who are critical of vaccines or suspicious, those numbers are still considered to be too small. And so I'll just kind of give you a few thoughts to maybe reassure you. So one is that in terms of autoimmune disease, in different populations and different age groups, we don't know what the background prevalence or the background incidence is. You know, we have estimations, but for any group of people in any country, we don't really know what they are. And the challenge with a vaccine is that what you're asking yourself is, you have an intervention on day 0, and then you say, what is the risk of a signal in the next 30 days, or in the next year, or in the next 5 years? And if you really want to do the studies correctly, then you need to have a so-called benign intervention, right? And you need to be able to say, what's the likelihood that a young lady is going to develop multiple sclerosis in the 5 years after this benign intervention? In other words, she combs her hair. So she combs her hair on one morning. What's the likelihood that she'll develop and be diagnosed with multiple sclerosis in the next 5 years? And then you need to compare that to the young lady who, after she combed her hair, she may have gotten a vaccine. And so people are trying now to do more and more sophisticated kinds of studies like that. And these studies are all quite reassuring. So you know what the likelihood is. You follow a population of young people, because many of these autoimmune diseases appear in adolescence and young adulthoods. And so now you follow people over a period of 1, 5, 10 years, and then you know what is the real risk. And then you compare people who were vaccinated and when their disease appears, versus people who were not vaccinated in the next 1 year and 5 years, and that's your control group. And so that's the work that people are doing, and these are so-called quite reassuring in terms of the ones that you mentioned, things like multiple sclerosis or diabetes, the sort of typical autoimmune diseases that appear in young adulthood.
Oh, wait. Thank you. Do you have any more question, Michael? Hello, Michael?
Yeah?
Oh, do you have any more question?
No, I'm rather satisfied with the answers, but generally I'm still concerned about the fact why some scientists, as I told to Armel, they look only at why some scientists who are professors in some countries and they are well educated and they are chiefs at some cathedrals, etc. Why they don't see why don't they see the other articles like that no, there is no link between autism and vaccines. No, there is no link between autoimmune diseases and vaccines. I still it's
I mean,
concerning a lot.
Human beings are human beings. I mean, you have people that are fully honest, and they will give you all the pro and all the cons, and they will say, okay, it's difficult to get to a final clear answer. You have a person like Mark who is giving you clear examples of the ongoing studies to try to precisely answer this kind of question. So I mean, it really depends on whether or not you want to really fully discuss the issue, or if you want to convince people that there is something wrong with the adjuvant, and then you just make it the way you are going to be sure that at the end of your review, I mean, people will be convinced of what you want them to be convinced of. So it's a question of honesty. It's a question of this is human beings. That's a pity. This is the only thing I can say. And that's the problem with internet, that you may have people defending one attitude and one argument without any clear and demonstrated facts. That's why again and again I'm saying we should remain very cautious, and we should ask ourselves about the real demonstration of what it's claimed in what we are reading. That's the only thing.
Okay.
Yeah, maybe I can jump in, Michael. You know, one of the frustrations for people in the vaccine world is that we now have an understanding of the science and the immune system and the technology of making vaccines to be able to target cancer, to be able to target chronic diseases, to be able to target, for example, complex parasite infections, and to have potentially effective vaccines. But many of these formulations that people are working on are based on new adjuvants. They're based on new immunostimulants. They're based on new routes of administration or formulation. And so, as I said, you know, when we register a vaccine, we have the licensure requirements, and then we have the post-licensure requirements, and that's all very conservative, right? That's based on decades of experience. And so now what we're asking the people in the regulatory world to take a leap, right? To take a risk, potential risk. And you know, the medical world, and because of public health and the perception of vaccines, the vaccine world is very conservative. And so it's a big frustration in the science side of vaccine, because we do have a lot of new technologies, but it's very hard for them to enter into the public health use.
Okay. I hope that is clear for you, Michael. We have more questions. This one for Dr. Flesher. We have a question about the correlate of protection.
Mm-hmm.
I know your lectures in pneumococcal vaccine, but what about in a different type of vaccine, like, for example, flu vaccine, that every year you have a new strain coming out, and then so the correlate of protection have to be done every year, and how did it change for the newer vaccine that before it come out to be licensed?
Okay. So for the purposes of the lecture, I focused on one vaccine. But each vaccine, other than the pneumococcal conjugate, has its own so-called correlate of protection that's a basis for licensure. And the flu vaccine, because exactly as you say, the formulation is changed each year. There may be a change in the antigen or in the mixture of antigens that's in the vaccine. You can't expect to redo an efficacy trial because it would be too late. You know, by the time you show the vaccine was effective, the flu season would be over. And so the assumption has been that the correlate of protection, which is called the hemagglutination titer, that this correlate of protection can apply to the new formulation. And so again, as I tried to show in my lecture, there's a so-called bridge that allows you to take the knowledge you've learned from the licensed vaccine and apply it to the new vaccine, whether it's a new strain or whether it's a new formulation. And that's what's done with flu as well.
Okay. And also, there's another question. I'm not sure anyone, if anyone can answer it. It's from the people who are taking the class. She's not quite understanding why, what's the difference between efficacy and effectiveness.
Well, that's really easy. Okay, that one's really easy. So efficacy is when all the conditions are controlled as well as they can be in a clinical trial. And then effectiveness is when you're out there in the real world and you're measuring the impact of the vaccine as it's used by doctors and parents and children around the world. So it's kind of the real world impact is the effectiveness, so-called effectiveness.
Okay.
And that means that, you know, not everybody gets all the schedules, gets the vaccines in the right schedule, and the vaccines may not always be in the cold chain as they should, and so on. So that's really the test of how well the vaccine performs out there in the public health system.
Okay. I think we have we just lost her. We have another people trying to join, but she's in and out, maybe problem with the connection. Also, maybe I'll move on to the next question that I compiled from the discussion board on the website. This one said, so I'm just going to read her question. She said, it's been shown that maternal immunization with vaccine elicit antibodies in the newborn, but do we have any evidence on the protective effects of these antibodies? I'm not.
Well, I'd be happy to jump into that because it really gets to this issue about safety and perception. And it's the same issue as we were talking about earlier about autoimmune diseases. So if you vaccinate the mother and the baby, unfortunately, 5 or 10 years later develops an unusual disease, you know, people will say, well, maybe it was this unusual thing that happened, which is the mother got a vaccine, because for millennium and forever, mothers didn't get vaccines. And so maybe that's what caused this unusual disease. And so the world of maternal vaccination is very conservative. I keep using that term, and I don't mean it politically. I just mean in terms of always putting risk and avoiding risk as the first guidance. Now, that said, maternal immunization is quite effective, and there's been very nice studies done with pertussis, with influenza, particularly to protect the mother, but people are now looking at influenza to protect the baby. And so there are more and more studies done, for example, with the respiratory syncytial virus as a potential way to protect the newborn by vaccinating the mother, and there are studies that are being done. Another one is the group B streptococcus, which is an important infection of newborns that's transmitted by the mother during childbirth. And so there's a lot of work. It's a big, big area from the WHO, and I think that, you know, as there are more and more studies and as people are more and more reassured, a way to protect babies in their first months of life through the passive transfer of antibodies from the vaccinated mother will become more and more common, once these vaccines are licensed, of course.
I'm not sure that the question is fully answered, because I think that the question was whether the transferred antibody are really protective for the newborns, how it has been demonstrated. If you come back to the question, TB, maybe this is, I mean, something we can add on the discussion. So I have no idea of the study that may have been performed, but I can easily imagine that, I mean, newborns from vaccinated mothers as compared to non-vaccinated ones have been followed for this particular disease, for which the vaccine has been given to the mother, and then to see the incidence of the disease in your newborns coming from the two types of the two groups of mothers. So it could be something, I would say, quite easily to study or to get the answer.
Well, and precisely that's why this correlative protection concept is so powerful, and that's one of the reasons why you can look at the immune response in the mother, draw the blood from the mother, the pregnant woman. You can draw the blood from the umbilicus, you know, during birth, and then you can follow the newborn in the first weeks of his life, and see if in fact these antibodies are transferred, and if there is a level that's associated with protection. Precisely.
Great. I think we because we only have a half an hour for our whole session. I think we had a very very well discussion session today, and thank you, Dr. Flesher, for joining us, and thank you, Ahmed, and thank you, Michael. And I think it's a successful session.
Short one.
Thank you. Is anyone would like to add anything to close this session?
Just one point, which is for all the participants to this MOOC, do not hesitate to directly contact the lecturer asking your question when they are not participating to the to this lively forum. I mean, they will be very happy to answer your question. So, Michael, if you have still some regarding the achievement, please just try to choose Epidel Guidice, and if he doesn't answer, you tell me. I will ask him to answer your question, but I'm sure he will.
Okay.
Thank you.
So nice to see you. Enjoy the remaining lectures, and maybe see you later on during this course.
Okay.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you very much, Mark, for your contribution. See you.
Bye bye, everybody.
Bye bye.
Bye.